morning, and welcome to Azure Flash News.
Right
It is April 26th,
Yes, it is.
2019.
All day.
All day today.
Yep. It's a good day. It's a beautiful day outside. Everything's, well,
I only see one patch of snow left out there.
I know, just a tiny little one.
Yeah. I see lots of green. I like that.
Yeah. Well, if what you were talking about before comes to fruition, we could be in trouble, though.
Yeah, I heard we have a forecast for another 4 to 8 inches of snow. Not here in the Twin Cities. It's supposed to snow here.
Yeah.
But the snow is supposed to pile up. I mean, I can't even fathom. I just would. Oh my God. I'd come unglued.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Ditto.
We've had enough snow this year.
Yes, we
but
have.
You know what? That's not what we're here to talk about.
No, we are here to talk about the weekly announcements or weekly happenings in Azure.
That's right. There's always so much. It's amazing. We can always find something else to talk about.
Well, and we've got some good topics, but before we jump into that, I think we have to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. We had a great quarter, right?
Yeah, we did. It turned out pretty good.
Yep, Azure's been growing leaps and bounds.
Hold on to your Microsoft stock.
That's right. The platform, the maturity, everything that's happening. Yeah. And I think, we owe a fair amount of that to our fearless leader, right? Yeah. He did a great job, and his successor's he is standing on the shoulders of giants in some respects, but he's also blazing his own path.
I wish he'd been the leader a couple of years earlier.
Well, better late than never.
Yeah, better late than never. This is true. Because, we could have ended up with a car company CEO.
True. So for that, Satya, we thank you.
Yes, I'm glad we ended up with the technology.
No,
I think it's really helped.
It really has. The direction that Microsoft is going, and obviously we're putting all our eggs in a few baskets.
Actually, they're all in the cloud basket.
Yeah, well, and rightfully so, honest. Right? I mean, let's be honest, that's where it's at. So, just wanted to say thank you to my coworkers and my peers, my managers, and my subordinates to say you're
just covering everything.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, great quarter, and it's exciting to keep moving forward. So, anyway, we've got some good topics today.
We do.
The Azure Bootcamp's coming up. We've got some security stuff with managed instances. We've got an announcement around performance and PostgreSQL. We've got Azure Advisor customization, and last but definitely not least, threats and containers, detecting them.
Yeah.
So, Azure Bootcamp is coming up, I believe, this weekend, right?
I think so.
If I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
It starts early Saturday morning, and I believe is it New Zealand or what is it?
An article.
Yeah, New Zealand basically, of course, is going to be kicking it off before us. So while we're sleeping and while we're on Friday, they're on Saturday basically already, right?
It's already tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it nuts?
It's almost tomorrow.
So if you're going to the Azure Global Azure Bootcamp 2019, be prepared. It looks like it's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah.
Scott Guthrie, I think, and some folks, or Scott Hanselman, I mean, have been talking it up, and it's going to be fun. It's hands-on. It's got all the things you would expect from a real boot camp. And so looking forward to hearing feedback from folks and some of the stuff. That map is awesome. Those are all the locations, if I understand correctly, where the boot camp is being held, right?
In here.
We've got our nearest neighbor is
Fargo, which is not surprising because
we have the campus.
We have a pretty big office there, as a matter of fact. If people recall, Microsoft bought Great Plains Dynamics.
Yeah, exactly. That's correct. Yep.
And so there's actually a pretty big campus up in Fargo. So.
And down the Chicago area.
Yep, we've got Chicago. We've got 2 fingers.
2 fingers to move the map, my friend.
We've got both out in, that would be Downers Grove, I guess.
Yeah, I think so, right?
That would be Downers Grove office. We have an office in Downers Grove that we know about. So anyway.
And there might, if you haven't signed up, and this is the first you're hearing about it, first and foremost, we apologize. But secondly, I encourage you, once it gets published, to go ahead and click on the links and see if there's still space available. Because I can't think of I can. I was going to say I can't think of a better way to spend a Saturday. There's a few things, that might be better than hanging out and doing a boot camp, but not a lot.
Maybe golf.
Maybe golf.
No,
well,
come on, Rick.
Win the lottery. Win the lottery.
Yes. I would give up boot camp for winning the lottery.
Well, because then you can quit your job and dedicate all your time to learning how to do stuff in the cloud.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, Azure Bootcamp 2019. Be there, be square.
Check it out.
Check it out. It's going to be a good time.
There's also a recent episode on Azure Friday.
Yep. Not to be confused with
Azure Flash News, which used to be called
Azure Flash Friday.
We moved. Scott Hanselman said, "Hey, can you?
Thou shalt not use thy name in vain.
Thou shalt not encroach upon my name."
That's right.
I'm all good with Hanselman. Yep. We love him,
of course.
And so we kind of changed the name a little bit, which is okay.
Of course.
Anyway,
It's all good.
Go to boot camp.
Go to boot camp.
Go to boot
That's
camp.
right.
Okay.
Not the military one, by the way.
No, Azure
No.
boot camp.
That's right.
We don't do any push-ups. We do technological push-ups.
Intellectual push-ups.
Intellectual push-ups. Yeah.
Love it.
You'll love it.
So, okay, this one, every time I see a data thing, I always think Mark. And here's the thing though, that is a completely unfair box to put Mark in, because some of the stuff I've seen him do outside the data space is just as impressive as some of the things I've seen him do in the data space. So,
Thanks,
but again, I'm just saying, I know you have an affinity for data and databases.
I love databases.
So whenever I see this stuff, I'm like, oh, Mark's gonna think this is cool.
Mark does think this is cool.
Right? So Azure SQL databases. So there's a security aspect of it, right? And go ahead.
So I was going to back up and just say, if you don't know what a managed identity is,
well, good, fair.
You probably need to know what that is.
That's fair.
So a managed identity is an identity that is bound to a part of a piece of Azure infrastructure.
Right.
Like a computer identity is in AD.
Yep, exactly.
Right? So in other words, when you go into Azure App Service websites,
you
can create a managed identity.
Yep.
And now your website essentially has an identity you can grant permissions.
Right. Yep.
And then you can go into your application and just say, hey, reach out to that resource, an Azure resource probably, and use the managed identity. And the thing
in the context of the managed identity.
Reach out to that Azure resource in the context of the managed identity. Like for instance, you might say, I want to reach out to Key Vault.
Yes.
Go get me a key. And so you would give that managed identity access to the Key Vault for read access on that secret.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So now when you get rid of your so you can't use that managed identity anywhere else.
Correct. That's bound to that Azure resource.
It's bound to that Azure App Service instance. You can't use it anywhere else, and you can't log in as it.
No.
As it?
As the managed identity.
My English is not good. But you can't log in as this managed identity. It's like a service account on-prem where you say no.
Exactly.
So these are very powerful security pieces.
Much better than doing things like putting username and passwords in connection strings.
And even better, which is the old way, would have been to using service principals, application registrations, which you still have a secret that you got to stick somewhere.
The client secret and the And this gets you out of the business of storing secrets.
Yeah, you don't need the secret anymore.
No.
It's so cool, really awesome. So anyway, so that's what a managed identity is.
Yep.
Okay. So now, of course, the next thing is Key Vault was born in the cloud. And so being able to use a managed identity was, relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
Because it was always in the cloud.
Yep.
SQL, on the other hand, is a completely different animal.
Yes,
it was around,
it is.
It was around a long time before the cloud and before OAuth, and so they've been doing a lot of work to bring that in. Yep. And so now we have brought managed identities into, the first thing was to do Azure Active Directory into SQL.
Yep.
Azure SQL.
Yep.
And now we're doing managed identities, and now guess what we're doing? We're making it easier. We like to make things easier.
Yes, we do.
So now you'll notice here that the Azure App Service authentication library has all of the SQL connections. So you'll notice here's this code snippet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it could get any simpler than that.
No, invoke a new instance of a SQL connection by passing in the connection string. And then connection.access token. It's an async request, so you're doing an await on that service token provider.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the key here is this Azure Service Token Provider.
Yep.
And you just say, I need to go get one for database.windows.net.
Yep.
And you're ready to go. It doesn't get much easier than that.
No, it really doesn't.
And then you don't have to use it. You don't have to, this gets you out of the SQL authentication business too.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Right. So for your applications, if your application in the cloud, if you're bringing your .NET application to the cloud, you can stop using SQL auth and start using managed identity auth.
So one of the cool things though is if you scroll up in this article, so you can see before scroll down just a little bit so you can see the before and after, right? So using the connection string containing credentials, right? You've got your data source, is server name,
right? This
right?
is before.
User
this is what it
ID,
looks like
password,
before,
exactly. So after you register the app authentication, so there's a SQL app auth provider. Right, that's the provider we were just talking about before. After you do that, you can see the Active Directory interactive, you can see the type, and you can see the namespace, right? So again, the change number 2, update the connection string, you're removing the credentials and reference to the registered SQL auth provider, right? So you're basically changing the authentication provider and removing the username and password from the connection string.
Because then you just don't even because we knew that we needed to get the username and password out of the code, and so we put it in app settings.
Yep.
Which, I mean, that was okay.
App.config, web.config.
Yeah, I mean, that was okay, but that wasn't that great either.
No.
Because then
it's plain text. It's still sitting there in plain text.
Still, even when it's in app settings and app service, because I mean, that was the next step is like, okay, so it's in app settings. You can put it in your, keep user secrets out of your code, and then put it in app settings and app service, which is good.
Well, but
that's still not that great either.
And then we tell you, okay, so the next step is to use the X509 encryption or crypto provider, right?
Yeah.
And encrypt and decrypt it. Okay, that's okay, but you're creating some significant, overhead and you've got the machine key that you're using for, so there's all these things that you got to bring along with it. Whereas, just don't store it there.
Yeah, just don't do it at all. Just use a managed identity.
That's what HSMs and Key Vault and HashiVault and all these other HashiCorp's Vault and all these other things are for.
Yep.
So basically, we're saying get out of the business of doing that.
Yeah, it simplifies your world.
And this actually, I would argue, this really simplifies things because you're not changing. So if username password changes, you don't make a change to the connection string. It's handled at the managed identity side, right?
Well,
I mean, it's all.
I mean, is there even a password on a
No,
managed
well,
identity?
that's the thing. It's not. You're getting an access token.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't have to mess with it. I suppose there's a password, but nobody ever knows it.
No, and it does get rotated, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. I think there is a password and it gets on anyway, but you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
anyway.
So really cool. I mean, again, 3 lines of code instead of, again, if you go up to the top, the way that, the connection string, that's instead of connection equals new SQL connection.open, it's one more line connection.access token.
Yeah, you just got to get your access token for the connection before you open it.
Exactly. So to me,
pretty straightforward, man. It just doesn't get any simpler.
No, it really doesn't.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So get out of the business of storing that stuff. Use the valet pattern wherever possible.
That's right. Okay.
All right. PostgreSQL.
Yeah. Does anybody use that? No. Wait. Hold on. Azure doesn't do open source, does it?
No. Gosh, no. We are so closed source.
No, we don't do that.
So we do have, obviously, as we have Azure SQL databases, we have MySQL, we've got PostgreSQL, we've got MariaDB.
Are those on infrastructure as a service?
No, those are PaaS.
PaaS?
That's right, baby. It's all PaaS.
So in other words, when you spin up Azure database for PostgreSQL.
Yeah, I call it PostgreSQL, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know how to pronounce those things like the cool kids. All those open source names are all kind of hard for me to pronounce. I'm getting too old. Anyway, when you spin one of these up, you get a database as a service.
Yep.
You don't have to do backups.
Correct.
You don't have to patch it. You don't have to upgrade it.
And it's highly available. You've got 3 copies, just like you do with the other ones.
Yeah, you don't have to do any of that stuff.
Yep.
So if you've got an application that's on-prem, as a matter of fact, I have a customer of mine, I think they're doing MySQL.
Okay.
So they're bringing a MySQL app onto Azure, and I don't think they do MySQL anywhere else in the company. It's like a one-off.
Sure.
And so this is perfect.
This is perfect. Exactly.
Yeah,
this is
perfect. They want to consolidate on Oracle and SQL, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Those are definitely 1 and 2 in databases. And so they have some MySQL. I don't know if they have any PostgreSQL, but they want to just put it in Azure SQL database for our Azure database for MySQL, which is the same kind of thing here. So Postgres and MySQL.
And I'll defer to you on this, but I've heard from a very reliable source, if you are migrating from Oracle, this is probably the most like-for-like PostgreSQL from an Oracle to Technology B kind of scenario.
I actually don't know. I'm not afraid to say I don't know.
Oh, good for you, right?
I'm not afraid,
right?
Because contrary to popular belief, I don't know everything.
We don't know everything?
I probably have some people fooled. No, that's a joke.
You have some people fooled.
It's a growth mindset.
Yeah, it is absolutely. But for what it's worth, in my conversations with my peer that I work with on my account, he has mentioned that it's probably the cleanest line of sight to migrate. And not that I'm saying you should migrate off Oracle, but if you are, for whatever reason, if you are,
I am. I'm saying you should migrate from Oracle. If you're on Oracle, you can do it on
Oracle. We're not saying you can't.
You can do it on other databases for a lot cheaper. I'm not saying Oracle doesn't work. I'm not saying Oracle isn't great. It's great.
Yeah.
But you can do that workload somewhere else.
Fair enough.
Anyway.
There you go. So what we're doing now is so just like we have Azure Advisor, right, or auto tuning. We've got a lot of different capabilities within Azure for Azure SQL Database.
What is Azure Advisor?
So Azure Advisor, when you provision resources over time, what it'll do is it'll profile kind of your resources and it'll make recommendations, right? So it'll say either you're over provisioned, or it looks like you might be under provisioned, or you should enable disk encryption, or just not somewhat akin to Security Center, so complementary to that, Azure Security Center.
Yeah, and it has like performance, like performance stuff, security stuff. So like the performance stuff, like you said, is like your VM may be too big, and I think it does it for Azure Database for Postgres. It'll say it's too big. You need to make it smaller. I mean, who doesn't like that?
Exactly.
I mean, like you may not want to go, like it may suggest something maybe a little too small, but because you haven't been running at a peak, but at least it raises it to your awareness that you might be over provisioned.
Oh, by the way. Well, and the other thing it does, so I've had this actually run in situations where, for example, I've got an Azure SQL Database provision and it's telling me I'm getting optimization recommendations for adding indexes. Because maybe I accidentally did a table scan, right? So it'll actually recommend indexes. It'll recommend, tune this, tweak this, add a foreign key here, do that. So it's really helpful from a developer's lens, right? If you're not steeped in DBA, performance tuning and optimization, this is a great tool to kind of help you, do your own tweaking and tuning without the expense of having to bring in another person who's already got a day job, who's already busy doing that.
Or if your organization is big enough to have DBAs, what this does is it allows you to stretch your DBAs farther across more databases.
Absolutely.
And so it kind of brings to the DBA's attention which databases might need some looking, and then they can look at the index recommendations, decide if they like it, tweak it if they need to, play that index recommendation in, resize the database. One of the roles of database administrators going forward is keeping the databases running at the right size and optimizing for cost. It's critically important because these databases can get very expensive if you're not paying attention.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so you just need to keep paying attention and keep them in check. And there's all sorts of stuff you can do.
Yeah. So in this case, the recommendations you can see are CPU bottlenecks, connection constraints. Obviously,
so this is performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Memory constraints, read-intensive workloads. I mean, it gives you read-intensive workloads is important because in that scenario, right, if I'm doing reporting against an OLTP type of repository, I probably want to create a read-only instance of that, a copy of that, right? Or clone it or replicate it, and then use that for my reporting.
And so if you need that read-only replica, of course, you just go to the portal and say, can I have one, please? Click, and it's done.
Done.
Or, I've been pushing this a lot lately. Go to your ARM template.
Yes.
Update the ARM template.
Exactly.
And automate it and deploy it through Azure DevOps.
Yep. Because it is idempotent, it's not going to reprovision your database. It's just going to add a read-only replica.
Yep. So that's kind of the next graduation point I'm seeing.
Agreed.
Like people need to stop working in the portal. Like work in the portal in Sandbox or in Dev or something. But by the time you get to like your performance testing or your staging environment, maybe. Like that environment needs to be automated deployment through ARM templates.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you don't know how to do that, send me a tweet.
Yes.
Send Rick a tweet.
Yes.
At Azure Flash News. We will show you how to do it.
Absolutely. You can definitely do that.
All right. So, yeah. So the Go. Well, that's an interesting picture that I clicked on right there. So the go-do is go check out Azure Advisor. There's so much there. Here's an announcement around Postgres, but that's not it.
No, that's not it.
There's tons of other stuff there.
Absolutely.
Go check it out. There's all kinds of recommendations, and you can customize those recommendations.
Absolutely.
Too. So like if you want to say that a VM that is running at 10%, under 10% utilization is a VM to be resized, or you can set it at 15%.
Absolutely.
Like there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so you can tweak and tune these metrics. You can ignore certain things if there's certain things you want to pay attention to. For example, if you've got multiple subscriptions, but let's say some are dev test, if you want to kind of avoid the Azure advisors in the dev test piece for whatever reason, you can uncheck those and it won't give you advice. Let's say, for example, your area of interest is specific to app services or something. You don't necessarily want to see Azure Advisor for databases because you've got somebody on the data side. You can unselect those. You can do it at the resource group level. So there's a whole bunch of tweaking and tuning and customizations that you can add to this that'll give you the ability basically to see what you want to see, right? When I think about this, I think of it like back in the day when KPIs were all the rage, right? Key performance indicators. I always took issue with
Norton and Kaplan's balanced scorecard.
I always took issue because a lot of people, when they threw up KPIs, were just reporting off of historical information. Yeah. So basically it was, well, here's where we are. No. That's not what a key performance indicator is. It should say, here's where we're trending, here's where we're going. Yeah. This is going red because we don't think we're going to make it. Yeah. Not it's red because we missed a metric. It's red because we're, right? Yeah. So to me, this is, it's kind of like KPIs, but real KPIs. Yeah. It's the stuff you want to see. It's proactive. It's telling you what's, where you should be doing things, as opposed to, well, historically, here's where you screwed up. So really important. I love the ability to tweak it, tune it, see what's important to you, and not have to put up this giant dashboard of things that gets overwhelming, and there's all kinds of stuff there, and you got to go filter through it to find what you want to do. Get that out of there. Get that out of there.
Go check out Azure Advisor.
Absolutely.
Go check out Azure Advisor. All right.
Definitely.
And I think, as a matter of fact, Scott Guthrie, who kind of reports to Satya, and is kind of one of this, kind of the Azure cloud guy.
Yep.
This is one of his big focuses is Azure Advisor. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, so go check it out.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. We just did this one.
Yes, we did.
Oh, wow. Well, that was on the last one. That was two of them right together that were related.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Right on.
All right. Okay, Azure Security Center. They just keep this is not going to stop.
I know.
This Azure Security Center, addition of more capabilities so Azure Security Center can help you protect storage now. Right. I mean, Azure storage accounts. Yep. It can help you protect app services. Yep. It can help you protect SQL databases.
And
now
containers. And what's nice is these are compliance based on the CIS benchmark for containers.
Yeah, I think
it's not something that we're just saying, hey, this is what we recommend. It's actually based on the CIS compliance benchmark.
Yeah, and I think the CIS benchmark is really taking hold. I think a lot of customers are new to, what does it stand for? It stands for what does CIS stand for? Anyway, it's a cloud information security benchmark. So it's kind of a cloud benchmark for how to protect it's a benchmark for how to protect cloud resources. So it's cloud native, and it's relatively new. So it's kind of geared towards the kind of things we're dealing with in the cloud. And so it's a really great way. If you kind of don't really have a place to start, it's a great place to start.
Oh, absolutely.
Just go through CIS and say, let's just say that this is our policy. Yeah. For now, until we find something that we want to do differently.
Maybe it's PCI, maybe it's HIPAA, maybe it's CIS, SOX.
But this is your definition, and so Azure Security Center integrates with those CIS recommendations.
And what's cool, so the example that's up here, right, is basically if you've got like a Docker daemon that's accessible over the network, that's a bad thing, right? You don't want that daemon. You don't want people getting access to it. Yeah, exactly. That is not a good thing. So you'll see things like Docker Analytics. You'll see if it's misconfigured, if there's an attack vector for like a misconfigured daemon, for example, like I just mentioned, the engine is accessible only via a Unix socket, right? So changing that is basically if it's changed to support to not be that way, then you're exposing yourself to nefarious actors.
So this I think is interesting. I'm just going to quote here. Yeah. A host that runs an exposed Docker daemon could be or would be compromised very quickly. And here's the kicker. In the Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center's honeypots, scanners that are scanning for exposed Docker daemons are seen frequently. In other words, we have honeypots that we're allowing people to do their dirty work on.
They don't, and of course, for those of them that don't know what a honeypot, a honeypot basically is, it's kind of like the car that what do they call that car that they set up for people to steal?
Oh, I don't know what you mean. I mean, I know what you mean. I don't know.
So a honeypot is basically we're intentionally putting something out there and opening it up to the world to see what kind of attacks people are doing, port scans, how they're trying to go after it. So it's like that car that the police officers put on the street intentionally for people to steal it.
And then they put a tracker on it.
Yeah, exactly. The chase, not the chase car, but so anyway, it's similar to that. And so a honeypot basically is it's a dummy server that we intentionally expose to the internet, intentionally expose with certain vulnerabilities so that people are attacking it or trying to attack it, and then we're learning from that. So
so we're seeing this kind of attack a lot.
Yep.
And so FYI, Azure Security Center can search for these kinds of attacks.
Oh yeah.
And I just don't think you can underestimate the value of getting Microsoft's R&D, our security team behind you.
Oh, totally.
I mean, so our security team is like, it's like when you deploy Azure Security Center, it's like putting our security team to work for you.
Absolutely.
Because all of the work we're doing and all of our security work gets put into this Azure Security Center.
Absolutely. And so you'll see other things like, for example, if you're provisioning containers with higher privileges than they need, you'll be told. The Security Center will tell you, hey, these containers don't need these godlike privileges to do what they're trying to do. They only need X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And even cluster level security, right? So if you're looking at the clusters, especially with AKS or typically when we provision a cluster from a cluster security perspective, we've got default to best practices, but if you're changing things or if you don't have RBAC enabled, that's a big one. Azure Security Center will say, hey, you need to enable RBAC around this cluster, these servers, and allow limited access, that kind of stuff. So it's just giving you a very comprehensive overall perspective on really, guys, if you're going to do containers, check this out because it's going to tell you where you're going to do things wrong.
If you're doing containers, you need to turn this on.
Well, arguably, turn it on. It doesn't matter. It's just cool that it extends itself out to the container space. It extends itself out to, really all the different attacks that you can see it's catching is really
cool. Azure
cool.
Security Center can also identify an alert on suspicious requests to the dashboard container from Kubernetes nodes. It's just like the article is really long about things that it does.
Oh my gosh!
And my guess is it does a whole bunch more that we don't talk about because we don't really want people to know that we know what it's doing. But
best defense is full disclosure. I know. Well,
don't tell people what it's. Well,
I think best defense is truly knowing where the vulnerabilities lie.
Yeah.
And mitigating that, right? I mean, that's kind of what it's all about.
So yeah, and then there's just by the way, this will be in the show notes. It says it also comments here that in a previous blog post, Azure Security Center announced new features around container security. So if you want to see more about it, please go there.
Oh, yeah.
Although I have to say, this is something when I read this, I didn't really see. I'm assuming that you can do this for your own Kubernetes clusters on-prem? Or is it just AKS?
I didn't see anything that said you couldn't do it, or it was just with AKS.
I kind of wondered about that. So
again, I think if
you happen to know,
agent-based, right? I mean, so technically, if you take the agent and install it on your cluster nodes, you should be okay.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would assume I'm assuming it's a daemon that you install. I'm assuming it's a daemon container. But anyway.
Right.
So there you have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully this was good stuff this week. I thought it was good stuff. I mean,
no,
containers
absolutely. They're all the rage.
They are.
That's what all the kids are doing it.
All the cool kids.
They really are.
Yeah. I mean, are we the cool kids?
Nah.
Come on.
We're old.
No, I don't mean us. I mean Microsoft.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. We are.
I mean us.
Well,
yes.
no. Here's the
old.
thing.
We're not.
Microsoft is not. We're not. Microsoft is not a cool kid. Microsoft is making the other kids cool.
Yeah.
We don't want to be a cool kid. We want to make other people cool.
That is what Satya has said. He's like, look, we don't really want to hit the headlines.
No.
What we want is for you to hit the headlines.
Exactly.
And so we want for you guys, our customers out there, to make news on how awesome you're doing, and we're here to help.
Absolutely.
We're here as a platform company to enable you, to enable every organization and person
across
on the planet to do more. Yeah,
and
to achieve more.
To achieve more. Very good.
More.
So speaking of here to help, if somebody needed requested help from you, how would they get a hold of you?
Oh, well, there's a couple of ways. You could tweet me at mgarner on Twitter. That'd be fine. Or you can email me, mgarner@microsoft.com. I'd be happy to do that. What about you, Rick?
I can be reached at our Twitter handle at Azure Flash News. And if you prefer a more traditional method, you can email me at rick@microsoft.com.
And if you want to send Rick a snail mail, if you want to go real traditional,
no, I appreciate it if you want to send me cards and flowers, but
well, I guess we do actually have mailboxes.
We technically do. Yeah. I check mine; it's never anything. There's nothing.
I probably went 6, 8, 12 months without checking my mail once.
Nice.
Anyway.
Awesome.
Needless to say, there wasn't much there.
No. Very good.
So,
thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks to you guys for joining us today. Don't forget, you can catch us if you're not available at 9:30 on Friday mornings, you can catch us on
iTunes.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just like, my brain is just not working here. You can catch us on iTunes. You can catch us on Google. You can catch us on YouTube. You can catch us on Stitcher. So feel free to catch us there and check out and follow at Azure Flash News on Twitter.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Rick is always
subscribe and like subscribe and like on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
please.
awesome.
Right. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you to the MTC for providing the resources, and Emily McMiller for
producing. Thanks, Emily.
As always. And so anyway, we look forward to speaking to you same time, same place next week. Until then, keep your fingers on the keyboards and your hand on the clouds.
See you later.
Oh,
wait. Say it again.
Time out. Let's redo that. Keep your fingers on the keyboard and keep your head in the clouds.
Yes, there we go. We got it. See you guys.
A little too fast.